Welcome back to our series on the Token Terrors Battle Block solo minigames. This time we're going to be covering the game that I designed, which is called Goblin Nitro Run. This game's theme was inspired by another indie designer named Eric Street, who had initially taken a swing at doing the design. For whatever reason, he just wasn't able to finish it, but I kind of wanted to dabble in designing a solo game, so I just kind of took over it, and he gave me his blessing and everything, and has since then expressed that he was really pleased with how this game turned out. In Goblin Nitro Run, which you can see on the cover here, Skirmish the Goblin war boss, who is the current leader of the Goblins, has ordered you to build a ramshackle minecart track in less than a week so that he can transport volatile Goblin nitroglycerin potion bottles from the guts of the Messa cave up to the opening so that they can be used in war. Somehow, I don't really know how, this game ended up having the most components and kind of being the most involved. I think I can't really speak to the verbose nature of this design. It's definitely my fault. But I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I think it might need a little bit of tweaking, which some of this stuff will get hashed out in the rules. And one thing that I think is kind of neat about all of the solo mini games is that the rules are only ever going to exist digitally. They're all playable on Tabletop Simulator. So as our players experience these games, if they see things that can be improved, we are 100% ears open to making those changes to the rules. Because since they won't ever exist physically, part of that is a development side of things, but it's also because we want these games to be a little bit more malleable rule-wise. As they get more refined, we'll be able to update the online versions and make them a little bit better, maybe, if they need the help. In the case of Goblin Nitro Run, I think it's pretty tight. I've never aced it. I've played it about 4 times, and I've never gotten through without losing goblins or nearly exploding or flying off the track. But let's dig into gameplay. So the first part of the game is more or less a worker placement and sort of zone control sort of thing. So you have 3 goblin schemers. Schemers are basically the shot callers or the foremen of the Goblin Nitro track. Then you have 3 goblin grunts. These guys are going to be your workers, and they're going to execute actions for you. On your turn, each of your schemers have 2 actions that they can complete a piece. You can move, where you move a schemer to an adjacent hex. So feasibly, you can move twice and use both those actions. You can plan, which will let you draw minecart track schematics from a stack, which I'm just going to get this stuff ready in just a minute. You can plan, or no, I just covered plan. Sorry. You can delegate, which you can assign a task to one of your grunts and place them onto one of these 3 color-coded spaces. And based on the way that you have them oriented, if they're facing blue, you would draft specs. You'd need 3 facing red in order to have a finished schematic move into the build this section space, or you can have 2 of them facing yellow to move a draft spec into the gather supply space. You start off with 7 angry nitro, and a cool little feature of these guys is because they're angry, they're glowing with all of these little spokes coming off of them, and they almost resemble a sun. So these angry nitro tokens are actually going to track the days of the week. You have 7 days to build the track and then travel down it. So as you finish each round, you'll flip these over, and when you run out of angry nitro, you have to spend nitro to take additional turns, which will affect your final score. So then you're going to get all of the track schematics and flip them face down. You kind of want to scramble these around. And you're going to create a singular stack of track schematics. We're going to set this up over here. And what's kind of helpful is that you can see, when you do the plan phase and draw schematics that you're then able to get into the draft step, you can always see the next one that you're going to draw as you reveal more plans. But some of the plans are not very good, and as you dynamite, bang, and build different parts of the tracks, you might cause a cave-in. So when you flip over plans, there might be a boulder on the side, which can cause all kinds of problems. These tokens actually don't apply until the second phase of the game, so it's kind of 2 games in one. You have the part where you build the track, and then you have the part where you hurtle down the track trying to maintain stability and speed. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So on my turn, I am going to start using some actions. First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plan on leaving this goblin up here for probably the duration because he's behind this mountain, which can't be moved through. So I'm going to use 2 move actions to move this goblin schemer here. And what I do to keep track of how many actions they've used is I rotate them once towards the bottom left hex, part of the hex, flat part of the hex, and then a second time. So if they're facing to the left, I know that I've used both of their actions for the turn. This guy, I'm going to use 1 action to plan and draw 2 schematics off the top. So we have a curve and a Y shape. Then I'm going to use his other action to have a grunt start to draft that spec. I think a Y shape would be good coming out of the entrance. So I'm going to flip this over to see if there's a boulder. There isn't. So I'm going to place that there. Then this guy is going to use both of his actions to have the grunts move onto the gather supply space, which will move this piece up. Now, when these start, you're going to start them with the black arrow facing the lowest number. And at the end of each round, certain specs take time to build, so you have to rotate them, and they can't be moved into the build this section part of the worker card until they are at their highest value. So this will start at 1. And I'm out of actions, so that is 1 day gone. I then reset all of my schemers, so they have a full set of commands or actions. All my grunts move off the worker place. They go home for the day. This schematic that I drafted earlier will remain in the wings, and now our second day begins. So, I want to get more track pieces. This could be rubble, which would suck. I'm going to use 1 to plan and draw 2 more. So the Y is going to go like this. I'm going to get a straight. And then I'll use this second one to draft this spec and place. Come on, please don't. Damn. Okay, so I tried to build this straight track and instead caused a cave-in of rubble. And this piece must enter a space adjacent to the guy who did it, but it can't enter on a mountain, so I guess it's got to go here. Now, there's stuff I can do about that, one of which is I can demolish. I can spend a happy nitro, which I have 1, to demolish an obstruction on the map in an adjacent space. So if I move this goblin schemer here, I can spend a nitro to demolish that space. You can also sweep up, where if I end my turn on top of this space, when I start the next day, the rubble's immediately removed. Basically end up using my entire turn to get rid of it. That's no good. So I'll use another action here to I don't want a curve. I have to plan again. So I draw 2 more, and I'll use this second one to have this guy. He's already on the board, so I'll draft again, and I finally get that space. And then both of these schemers actions are going to be used to gather supplies. And this starts on the 1. Now this would have been rotated at the end of my last turn, so that's on 2, and this is on 1. So my turn's over. I flip over the next tile and move all these guys off. Reset these dudes. And this is basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to try and beat the clock to get this track built. And I'll see if I can sort of skip ahead here. I would have to actually play the entire portion of this part of the game to show you the nuance of how building a track presents different challenges based on what you have to deal with. But we're going to go ahead and skip ahead to the minecart portion of the game. So let's see if we can just put together a quick track here. We're going to put a Y here and a straight. And while I'm building this track, I'll kind of explain how you actually get parts onto the track. You have to use 3 goblins to do the build this section. So anything that's in gather supply, when you do the build this section and allocate 3 grunts to build, you move all of the finished schematics into the build this section part, and then you have to use 1 action to build on the schemer side of things. So if the schemer's here, I could build a track here and here, we have this thing called workflow, where if a single schemer uses both actions to build twice in a row, you get to place a third one for free, which is huge. So if you're able to get 3 sections into the build this section part, and then you build 2 sections with the same schemer on the same turn, you can place a third one for nothing. It's awesome. So we're just going to continue on here. Don't want that. The other thing that's interesting is you can travel through tunnels, which will kind of augment the speed and stability of your minecart as you go. In the case of this card, you would actually have to destroy this mountain first. We need a Y. Okay, so let's just say that we got all of this track built, and usually, actually, every time that I've played, all of this Happy Nitro is flipped, but I usually end up angering at least 2 Nitro to actually get the track built. Angry Nitro cannot go onto the cart, so those get forwarded or get set aside. So all the guys move off of this worker placement. Both of these cards flip over, and now we are in the minecart phase. So one schemer is going to represent a goblin on the minecart. You're going to take all of your Happy Nitro and place it onto these spaces here. And in this case, in this hypothetical, I'm 1 Nitro short of everything that I can use. And then you take 3 of your goblin grunts, provided none of them were crushed by rubble during the building process, and place them into the top of the minecart. The other guys are set aside. Then you take these wheel pieces. Now you have stability, which is blue, and you want your stability to be high. So that starts at a 5. Because you're just starting out, you're not going too fast, you're nice and stable. And your speed will be at 1. You want to keep your speed low. As you travel down the minecart, you will flip over the piece of track and note the numbers on the inside. So this is a +0 to stability and a +1 to speed. So our speed goes up by 1. It's not too bad. Then we flip over this one, and we have a +2 to speed and a +1 to stability. So this goes to 4, and our stability is already maxed, so no problem there. We have another +1 +0 for this Y shape, so another speed. And we're already starting to go pretty fast, which is not great. Then we'll flip over this curve, and this is a -1 stability and +1 speed. So we go down to 4, and this is where it starts getting kind of sketchy. So you have a number of different things you can do to mitigate the speed, because if at any point you move and you have no stability and you are at max speed, the cart flies off the track and all the nitro explodes and you lose the game. So one thing I can do right now is I can hit the brakes. I can anger 2 nitro on this cart and get +1 stability and -1 speed. That's a thing I could do. If I had built my track in such a way that we enter and exit through a tunnel, the tunnel of love mechanic happens, where you can either do a +2 to stability or a -2 to speed, or a +1 -1 to each of those different the stability and speed stuff. The other thing you can do is that if you're adjacent to a ledge space, you can lighten the load, and one of your goblins jumps off the cart with a nitro, and you can just add 2 stability. The problem is that your scoring is based on how many goblins and nitro actually make it through the minecart. So right now I have 4 stability and I'm at top speed, and anytime I move, if I can't increase my speed, my stability goes down. So I think I'm going to push my luck before I start angering nitro. And I go +1 speed and -1 stability. So this goes to 3, and then I can't go any faster, so this goes down to 2, and it's probably about that time to hit the brakes before I flip over the next section of the track. So I will anger 2 nitro, which is not good, because if at any point all the nitro gets angry, I explode as well. Ooh, lucky for me, I have this omnidirectional space, which doesn't have any stability. The reason the omnidirectional doesn't have any penalty to stability or speed is because it's super expensive to make. So I move over that one for free. And then, oh, I almost forgot to do this. +1 stability and -1 speed, because I did hit the brakes. Then I flip this one over, and I go +0 stability and +1 speed. And hey, there we go. I made it out of the mine. I made it out of the cave with nitro. So my scoring would probably not be very good, because the Goblin boss Skirmish is going to see that I have delivered him all of 3 unangered nitro and 2 that are ready to explode. I believe the flavor text is something to the effect of him kicking me in the ass and telling me to go back to my post. So, and obviously the way you ace the game is you travel down the entire track with all of the nitro still happy and all 3 goblin schemers or all 3 goblin grunts riding the cart alive. So that is Goblin Nitro run, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think about it.